Welcome to Machine Builder Talk, the podcast where industry leaders, innovators, and visionaries in the industrial machine building world share their insights, challenges, and breakthroughs. Here are your hosts, Colin, Cartwright, and Craig Henry.
Okay, we are back. This is episode 3 of Machine Builder Talk. I'm so excited because we've had such great success so far, and we're going to continue that success today. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Colin is up in Canada, and at the time of this recording, Canada is colder than cold. Tell us about that.
It's very cold up here, minus 20 degrees centigrade. We've got about 4 feet of snow in the snowbanks. I spent half the weekend shoveling my driveway and sidewalk. So I'm done with winter.
You need to move south.
It's time.
You need to move south. Come on.
Time for spring.
Mason-Dixon.
Come on, let's get into spring.
I know you're a Brit that came to Canada. You can't figure out what country you're in at any moment. But look, I'm in Louisiana. For those of you who don't know me, I'm in just north shore of New Orleans. Today, I think we're going to top out about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. The odd thing about where I live is I'm in Louisiana, but not a part of the Louisiana Purchase. It's really the West Florida Republic is where I live. So I can kind of say I live in Florida. Nonetheless, you should consider moving down. That's a lot of snow, Colin. That's too much.
That's why we have the snowbirds come down to Florida. It's a lot of snow up here. When I retire, Craig,
You mentioned that. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, we're off to a good start. Look, we have this great guest. Bobby Cole is somebody that I have known for years and years. He is, to me, Bobby has been the go-to guy. I remember bringing a project to him where someone had installed, it was Profibus, and he maybe will remember this, and they needed to go to Profinet because it was a long installation and it couldn't be supported with the distance. It was a problem from the beginning, but I knew that the fixer was Bobby Cole. And he's done a whole lot of work with Siemens. I was with Siemens at the time. And he has a company called Think-PLC. He does something that is unusual in that he is a systems integrator. His firm, which has multiple locations in the US, they are on that line between mechanical and control systems. He understands both, but he doesn't have a line of products that he sells. It's all about making sure his customers are happy. And he's widely known. The last time we got together in person, he was talking about his customer, Krispy Kreme, who he had done magic with. And then we're going to get into that, I think, in our conversation. But without any more delay, I want to introduce Bobby Cole from Think-PLC. How are you, Bobby?
Very good. Other than we're getting some of that Canadian snow he keeps mentioning here in North Carolina. So I'm good. Good to see you, Craig. Colin, nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you. Sorry about the snow.
Hey, the Canadians, they push it down. It's coming down to us. It's going to be 27 Fahrenheit here where I live. That's not okay. I have to drag the plants in. All my tropical plants out on the courtyard. They're all going to turn black.
Of course.
So there's that.
We've taken them outside and had to bring them back in, and we get this little dance through the springtime here in North Carolina. I do joke when we interview folks that are up north for a job, we want them to maybe move here. I tell them you never hear of anybody retiring and moving north.
That's true.
So it's often the conversation when we are trying to get somebody on board, for sure.
No one moves north.
No one told me about the winters up here when I came to Canada. I landed in Canada in 1995, so 30 years ago this year, August the 13th. I remember getting off the plane, and it was 30 degrees centigrade outside, humid. I thought, this is it. This is great. And then about 6 months later, we got the snow.
Freezing your butt off.
And it didn't go up. Yeah.
We still have great summers, but the snow comes in this winter. Anyway, that's it. Let's get on with the show. And stop talking about weather. I want to hear more about Bobby and what I think PLC does.
Yeah, Colin, thanks. Yeah, so Bobby Cole, I'm the president of Think-PLC. We specialize in automation solutions. Listening to Craig, it sounds like we just do everything for free.
Really?
We don't have a product. And he's right. We don't have a product. People are our product. And that's the center focus of the business is the people here, because without them, we wouldn't have anything really. And in that we're focusing on delivering control systems tailored to our customers' needs. And that work spans industries such as food manufacturing, metal fabrication, a lot of material handling, for sure, material handling. We pride ourselves on providing future-proof automation systems or fixing them to that with intuitive designs that simplify operations and enhance productivity where we can.
Wow.
Perfect. Is that more on the control side of things, Bobby? Or are you doing the integration as in like mechanical as well, like, you know, installing conveyor systems and building frameworks, or are you sticking strictly to control systems?
No, that's a great conversation. That's where I come from. That's what I built the business off of. I mean, PLC's in the name. With that being said, we've become very mechanical over the last 5 years.
Right.
That's a passion, personal passion for myself, and a little bit of irritation where we needed to become more mechanical. The projects we were doing, the customers were asking for more and more. And I always joke that we're not a machine builder, but when you walk our floor and you see some of the stuff we're building, you're like, yeah, you're a machine builder. And I think we fit a really neat niche where we can build things that a lot of larger machine builders just couldn't afford to work on. And we tell the story, and being in a relationship business, I like to tell these stories, paint the story anyway. We all know we've got that machine. Mechanically, it's actually a pretty good machine, but the controls are a mess on it because these machine builders traditionally have had a struggle keeping A plus controls people on staff, keeping them entertained to where they can keep those folks. It's really difficult to do. And with that being said, we do a lot of retrofit where we actually put new controls on those machines later on, or sometimes when they're practically new. So the story is that we lead with A plus controls and then have expanded that out on the mechanical side. So coming at it a different direction with that in mind.
Amazing.
And you imagine the influence that has on what a customer could get at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I guess that eliminates some of the holdups you get because, a normal project waiting for mechanical to finish before you can get in and start installing, sensors or actuators and then wiring everything back to the panel. Now, hey, there's a question for you. Are you still on a new project wiring everything back to the panel, or have you adopted a more decentralized approach?
Oh my, you have to do a decentralized approach or you wouldn't be competitive these days. Speed of install being asked, especially all the retrofit work we do, it's a absolute must. And just some point in the evening I want to go home and that allows us to do it by the simplistic approach of networking, like you're saying, decentralizing IO, cuts down on conduits, which as a controls integrator, we're not pipe and wire people. So it makes more sense to integrate, have more diagnostics and get, lower the scope of the pipe and wire folks so we can get in, get out. And that's what does it for sure.
Yeah, that actually gives me another question. I wrote an article about a month ago now called "Stop Chasing Electricians." And one of the problems out there in the marketplace is everyone's saying, "Oh, we've got this skilled labor problem. We can't find enough controls guys or controls girls because we've got those in the industry as well." And it's down to the old-fashioned wiring of taking all those cables back into the panel and wiring them up to terminal blocks that you require a skilled, person to do. IP67 kind of eliminates that. So, when you look at the problem a different way, you can use smart people that maybe haven't got the qualifications yet, young up and comings out of college that maybe have a career change. They didn't like what they went into college for, but they're really handy and they've really got some kind of to control systems. And you could put them on installing, IP67 modules and obviously bringing M12 cables back. Is that something you're seeing more, in your industry, or I guess in your sector of the industry, or are you still seeing back that traditional, pull the cables back to the panel, install them into terminal blocks, and then take them from terminal blocks to the PLC?
No, sensor blocks are the way to go. Just about every project we're doing has some kind of integrated field bus IO system. To nowadays, it's so popular in the field and so obvious for the field. And I'll lead with one conversation. I theorize that in the next 5 years in our world, and to your point with the lower skilled folks, that our schematics will be less electrical schematics and they'll be more topology diagrams
Yeah.
or network diagrams, essentially, as things have become network. But we've seen it become into the control cabinet too, with networking now of push buttons, so less wires on buttons and less wires on motor control, wires on motor starters. IO link everything, IO link power supplies. It's that thought that it only worked in the field is kind of we're over that mountain and we're now into like how do you field bus what's in the cabinet? How about that?
Yeah.
Good way to put it.
But Rockwell have just released something like that. They basically came up with a control net for inside the panel. I know
Mhm.
control net's not the right. I don't think it was control net. I think it was Ethernet IP. But they're
Yeah.
actually using a cable between pilot devices and contactors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't think it'll take off because I think Eaton did that about 10
Eaton did it
years
a long
ago.
time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
that's
didn't take
right.
off at all
Yeah.
because of the
It
cost of.
didn't. I think people still like to be able to take a screwdriver and jam a contactor in. Those guys are retiring. They have gray hair like I do, and they're the ones that taught me. So we'll see if it changes. It's different time. I think Eaton had that product maybe premature. It wasn't ready. The
Yeah,
market was ready. The people using it. So Siemens had the new. It's essentially the link module. It's a smart link module. It's an Ethernet bus. It's actually Ethernet that links them together now. Obviously, they're smart motor controllers. Everyone's doing these intelligent, like I said, push buttons, and now everyone's power supplies are sending out IO link, going back to all that. And we could probably sit here and theorize on everything else. You know, I was around. I was in my career pretty young when Aussie was a thing, right? We don't talk about Aussie much anymore. When we go back to, I think back to like 2005, and you had this self-healing cable and you could do safety. It was, for me, I was all about it. Junior, whatever. It was another one that just really didn't do, it wasn't groundbreaking in the sense like it didn't take the world over like we thought.
right.
And in some companies like IFM, man, they really dug their heels in, like that was their thing. And to see it not really go where we thought it was kind of interesting. And I'll ask you guys back a question: why is that? You think?
It's funny you say that because IO-Link was actually invented by Siemens, a long, long
Point.
time ago, probably about 16 or 17 years ago, and it never really took off. And then, I won't mention the name because they're a competitor to us, but they begin with B and they end in F. They decided to start using it for field bus devices, and then obviously everyone started making sensors. But now IO-Link is probably the equivalent of USB for industrial
Yeah,
devices.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, 2013, I get called from some friends that build equipment for the automotive industry. So we're actually doing the Toyota Camry trunk lid bracket. It was going to be the 2015 Toyota Camry. So we're building a machine, and they're like, "Hey, we're using a bunch of sensor blocks because decentralization, right?" And they're like, "Rapid pace of building this machine. We have to do it really quick." And they showed me the Valve catalog, and they're like, "We're going to use this IO-Link stuff," and it was a Rockwell PLC. And I'm doing design, I'm doing programming. Like back then, it seemed like you just did everything. But we got into it, and we weren't using the sensors for the smart IO-Link, but we're using IO-Link to network the devices,
Yeah,
and it mitigated the cost of Ethernet blocks at that point were still very expensive, 2013. And I was very impressed. The deployment at that time, Balluff did not have their stuff together with Rockwell, so their messaging blocks were very cumbersome, and we had some issues to work through there. But it's now figured out, obviously. But that goes back 2013. It's been a while now, and I've seen IO-Link take off since and become even
yeah,
more prevalent.
Very cool. What about the globalization of all these companies that will, you'll have a different influence in Austria versus here versus South America. Are you getting into businesses like that or applications like that, Bobby, where you may have a different influence? And are you seeing a commonality across the continents? If so?
I'm seeing more of a commonality than we had 15 years ago. I think you know globalization 15, 20 years ago, believe it or not, it's not that long ago, but it wasn't what it is now. And so we'd have these European equipment shoved down our throat and
Mhm.
new technologies coming over that It was 10 years before anybody adopted anything like it because they were just overwhelmed with it by buying European equipment. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think that the manufacturers, the big players, are getting this out globally and not testing markets so small. And they're trying to do a good job everywhere and not just go to Portugal and show off technology. You see it with if you go to SPS, which Murr was huge at, enjoyed going to the booth in Nuremberg, or you go to Hanover, or go to a trade automate wherever. Actually, Modex last year, so impressive the booth you guys had. We're seeing the same kind of engagement globally. That didn't
Yeah.
happen. 20 years ago, automation shows, Siemens would be like packed in the very back in the corner with like a 5 foot by 5 foot booth. That's not the case anymore, right, in the United States. But so that, and just in my point in case is, I think that the marketing dollars throughout each nation has grown to the point where people are expanding that.
Cool.
Craig had to ask that because Craig is actually, and speaking of the global, he's in a global position with our company that didn't exist 2 years ago. So we are globalizing ourselves.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a big deal. And I see the world's getting smaller. And of course, it's been doing that for a long time. But, and particularly now with tariffs coming out, which is causing some concerns, although I believe that it can be remedied with respect to it just leveling out among companies. But there's a whole lot of nearshoring and onshoring going on. And all of a sudden, equipment is here that does have Mitsubishi or Siemens or Beckhoff or something. And I'm wondering if that's a challenge for you, in that I know you've told us that you've put a corner on the market of being a Siemens expert and being able to bring that to the US. Now I think that's more commonplace now, right? There's all these different brands. And does that create a challenge?
Challenge, no, or yes. Depends on which way you want to take the conversation. Challenge to there's so many options and everyone's trying and testing so many different things that can be a challenge. You get something that works, you want to use it, and then customer sees the new fancy item that's available on the market and they're like, hey, what you want to use this product now for this new project you're doing for us, which really find excitement from doing such a thing. It makes for not good consistency, and it's not good for me in the position I am, the role I'm in, especially on OEM support side, which we do quite a bit, to be changing things all the time. You just don't want to do that.
Makes sense.
We have some great OEM accounts, and folks know that, so they want to show us things they know will help. And the complex thing with that is, I look at it, I go, wow, this is great. This ice cube relay is innovative, or whatever it is, jokingly. And I say, okay, yes, I would like to use it. So you're going to go update all of our bill of materials. You're going to go change all of our drawings. You're going to get, you're going to redeploy stock. And they're like, oh, I get it. Next time it comes around, give me a shout. Absolutely. So it does make it complicated on that side of it. What do you guys see? Because catalogs are really growing, and the footprint of like my involvement with Murr early on was cables and sensor blocks, and now I'm calling you guys for more than that. So how do you deal with that?
That catalog's not getting smaller, or the website, product selection is not getting smaller. It's growing every year. When customers are, demanding new technologies, how do you balance innovation and maintaining consistency in your service and support?
Uh, good question. I feel like we're constantly training. You might as well. I'd typically double it in a year. End user jobs to come do what we do, because you have to be a little bit crazy to do what we do. You see like I say, the gray hair at my age through. Like I always say, I like to be on the edge, but not the bleeding edge. And like I could tell some war stories on here about being the guy on the bleeding edge of some products that wasn't ready for the market, but they got to get out there and get tested. So with us, it's have a massive training budget, have close alliances with vendors, treat them like partners and not like allies. Everybody has a job to do, and you got to be mindful of that. That's really difficult. If I answered every phone call every day, I would just never do anything else but be on the phone and, between the follow ups and things. But when I call these guys and say, I need you here to train the 2 new employees I just hired last week, they show up because we move brown boxes and we're a partner, right? So we utilize that manufacturer rep or distributor to to help us get up to speed on it. A lot of times we'll bring them into the conversation. We like to really help the support channel. Last year, first time ever I understood this to happen, we rented a venue, hired a band, catered in for the Siemens Tech Support Group in Johnson City, Tennessee. After 20 years of calling and asking for help from those guys, I thought it would be great to show them some love because all the sales guys go out to lavish, meals and travel the world. Those guys go to the same cubicle and grind and grind and grind. And
Yeah.
I don't think they get enough love. And you can't give them enough,
Good for
right?
you.
So with
Yeah.
that being said, we did a dinner and just it was just a thank you. You don't need anything from me, just thank you. And in that helps when I call and say I need help, they help.
That's fantastic. And you'll know
Yeah.
people by name when you do that. And people
100%.
people are a key part of this. And one of the huge challenges I hear around the whole marketplace in a lot of industries, not just ours, is the labor crisis. It's very hard to find and keep talented people, and having that personal touch. I think that was a great move, by the way, Bobby. I mean, the Johnson City folks are kind of cloistered
Appreciate it.
there, and
Yes,
boy,
sir.
what a great group. And that's when I was at Siemens, I remember calling them and, can I speak to Mike? I really wanted to get to a particular guy or gal. What do you do to keep good people? I mean, can you speak to that labor crisis? Are you experiencing it? Do you have some magic advice for everyone?
Yeah, magic advice. I've had to figure out a way to run an organization where I could maximize profitability with the workforce we've had.
Mhm.
That means you have to be able to communicate to customers, often which I feel like are good friends. You're not everything to everybody, and you got to build partner relationships. We like to share work. We have multiple integrators, other integrators in the area and elsewhere doing projects for us right now. And we act as that arm for other integrators. So, just realize you can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm in a weird challenge right now where 3-year goal of mine is I have to be double the staff we are now, and we know exactly the numbers of each area of operations and in financial and all. I'm trying to plan now for what I need to be 3 years from now. That's a big differentiator. So to go back to your question, but you have to start on the front end and find the right personality.
Mm.
So, and then you have to give people a safe working environment. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean like safe like you need a guard outside. That means safety in, their job responsibilities. And I tell people often,
Security.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you want the company to be loyal to you, you got to be loyal to the company and vice versa, right? And you got to feel that when things come up.
Mm.
Interesting, and this is going pretty sideways here real quick. But people look at how you offboard folks
Mhm.
that aren't right for the organization. They look at how you treat them. I think back to a previous place I worked. They treated you like you was stealing, no matter what the case was. If you're leaving, and nothing like last week, we actually had a new hire who works with a past employee, and he said, "Man, it was great working there." And he was someone that was exited. Unfortunately, just a crazy story that how that action come to be and how you treat them, how it comes full circle.
Mhm.
It's a small world out here,
Mhm.
and it's a global world. It's very small. So some of the things we've had to do is adopt unlimited PTO. We've had to have a very easy to explain bonus program.
Mm.
We've had to increase other ancillary benefits, and we pay 100% medical benefits for our employees that's very good. So I've had to look at it and say, well, if people are our product, as you led off this podcast with, leading to, then we have to invest in our people. So what does that look like?
Yeah. Wow.
Right. Yeah, I've actually heard what you were talking about, that creating a positive exit experience is nearly as valuable or crucial as an onboarding process,
Yeah.
because word gets about. And if
Mhm.
you've got people that leave your companies, and people leave companies for their own personal reasons, okay, they can go away and work for another company. It's funny how we stay connected, because they might work for a distributor, or they might end up working for one of your customers.
Yeah.
And if they have a bad experience working for you, it doesn't bode well for your relationship moving forward, especially if they're in a decision-making position, right? So
That's
it
right.
really is
And we
important.
know
And
there's a lot of research out there. People don't leave companies, they leave managers.
Yep.
And
yes,
and
yeah,
so, you have to be mindful of that, what's going on there all the way through the organization. We obviously have what we call it, not a org chart, but an accountability chart. With that being said, there's so much room to work around each other. And what we say is there's a list of fundamental behaviors that makes up what this company that's supposed to be so great.
Hmm.
People write mission statements, and that's typically done by an HR person that's very English savvy. And half of us, especially with my accent, we just don't understand what it means when you read that on the wall.
Right.
But we can do a list of fundamentals of things, behaviors that which make things or make the organization great. That's easy for people to understand. If you communicate those and you celebrate those things, it makes it really easy to people understand, like, why is it great? So if I ask you, like, Craig, what is so great about Murr? And obviously, he's going to know, like, just no, great. He's going to be like, wow, he's going to go on for 2 hours. But a lot of people, like, especially the guy that's, literally putting things in boxes every day, they're going to stop and take a pause.
Mhm.
You want them when they're at the, backyard barbecue with their neighbor to be like, I'll tell you what's great about it. You know what I mean? This, and this.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You know exactly what we do and how we behave. Our management don't tolerate it if you do things outside of those behaviors. It's a strong message. People want to know what's expected of them.
mhm.
And all these
Mhm.
things just build that, you know what I
That
mean? And that's
clarity.
not just punch list out on a chart. So
Yeah, and another thing you can do there is something I've always been cognizant of doing for all the companies I've worked for is we've got those people out back that do the shipping all day long, that keep, the boxes going out, keep the invoices going.
Mhm.
And one of the important things, and any junior salespeople out there listening, I'd like to give you this bit of advice. If you go into the office, make sure you walk back to your shipping department, say thank you to everyone, give them some good feedback about how customers tell them or tell you while you're out there that, hey, we get our stuff all the time on time. It's really good. It's packaged well. You give that feedback to those people because they don't often get it,
Mhm.
and you can just make someone's day by giving them a good compliment like that and going back there. So, and
100%.
that means everybody in your company. Go around and say hi to everybody. Hey, how you doing? Spend a minute with them.
Yeah, learn to have a conversation with people. And what'd you do over the weekend? Like, you can conversate with people. I don't care who it is, and that goes a long way. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this is fantastic. I like where this is going, and I'm learning stuff about you, even though I've known you for 10 years. Which 10 years? You were what, 18? Anyway, that gray hair came out quick. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
that's
I'm not good at
When you
math.
were 17, Craig, back then. Yeah.
So I want you to tell me about this. Is a story you told when we were at Realize Live about coming back in to Krispy Kreme after this. I think it was a SCADA system was put in place, and you thought you were in trouble. Do you remember that? And they had a shift, and you were given a call, and it had something to do with there was nothing happened or something, and they're used to all kinds of problems, and because of the system that you put in that was giving them all kinds of telemetry, it kept the employees honest, and no bad thing happened, and you thought you were in trouble. Do you remember that story? Maybe you don't. We can cut this out if that's
I do remember.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about an OEE
Yes,
project.
yes, and the
So
numbers, I guess, were
measuring
unbelievable.
efficiency. Yeah, yeah. So I think what you're mentioning. So we were doing OE dashboarding application, so monitoring efficiencies and part counts and all
Mhm.
that good stuff. And so we had hung the displays and we had the initial, graphics up there showing percentage and all that stuff, but we hadn't tied it in. We had to wait for a shutdown to tie
Mhm.
it in.
Mhm.
This is actually an important processing plant associated with that customer. And so one day was like doing the install, but we powered everything up and there's the dashboard, but there's no data being shown. And
Right.
so the next morning we come in and there was that had a morning handoff, third shift, the first shift. And so they noticed an uptick, a trend that they hadn't seen, and it was efficiency or part count or something. And
Yeah.
I get called in, they're like, "What did you guys do?" And I didn't get told it was good. I just heard, "What did you do?" And my first thinking was we left a wire out or we accidentally stepped on something. And I'm like, "Oh, we didn't do anything to mess with the machine yet. That's today." And they're like, "Oh, no, whatever you did, it's working because we got more production out last night." And I'm like, "Oh, that's Big Brother, dude. That's just Big Brother." They thought they were being looked at. Those operators know what that TV is going to do for them, and things changed. That I think that was a story
That's
you're
exactly it.
talking about.
That's it.
Uh, Yep, yep. So Big Brother's a big deal, and then a lot of times I get packing boxes, talking about troubleshooting and uh, junior folks, like you're talking about the salesperson, and I talk to technicians. I explained to them how you need to befriend those operators, those low paid workers that work on the production line. You might not think they're as smart as you, and most of the time that's not the case when you get to know them. And they know how that machine works and they know what it's supposed to do. And they'll tell on the maintenance guys who might have messed it up actually. So, the first thing I'll do is I'll go to the operator and go, "What happened here?" They'll go, "I'll tell you what happened." Nobody's asked him. It's been known for a day. Nobody's asked the guy. He'll go, "Steve, come over here and jam the screwdriver in the thing." And it goes down every time he does that because of this. And the guy don't know how to fix it, but
Yeah.
and he's cool sitting there on the sideline, you know what I mean? Because that's less work he's got to do. But they'll tell you, but you got to
Yeah.
treat them with respect.
Mm.
So those
Wow.
those operators, you're right, they do know the machines better than most people, and they can hear things that you can't hear, and they get used to the whir of the machine or certain mechanical sounds that it makes during a certain part of the process. And if something's wrong, they can hear it. You don't even have to see it.
Yeah.
They know. They go, "Oh,
They
hang on, that's just happened over there."
Yeah.
And they just go and adjust something really quickly, and then they come back and everything's fine.
Yeah,
It's
I've had these guys explain the machine does things. Now, a machine I wrote all the code for, like
Yeah.
7 years before, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it does this thing." And then you got to, and I'm like, "No, it don't." They're like, "Yes, it does." And I forgot about how it was written and actually how it functioned. They live with it, they know. And another favorite story was one of these food and bev customers phone call, need some help, and they have Harding plugs
Mhm.
that plug in, and this gets plugged unplugged every day, and the system gets cleaned. So the gasket breaks down, caustic breaks it down,
Mhm.
just wear. And I go in and I go right to the operator because I'm the guy that says you need to go to the operator. And I go, "All right, man, what's going on? I hear you're having trouble with this part of the machine." He goes, "I'll show you." And I go, "Okay, okay, let's go, let's load up." So he walks me over there and he picks up a water hose, and I'm like, "Oh gosh," like he's picking up a water hose and he sprays it at the connector, and a fireball blows out of the connector, and it trips off, alarms go off, and I'm like, "Stop, time out, don't do that." He's like, "So it does that every time I spray it," and so I've had both sides of the coin
yeah.
with that experience. But hey, he took me right to the problem, or right to the scene of the accident.
All right.
Wow.
So you know what? That you just give me an idea. I got to ask you something based on that. What you were just talking about. We've all made mistakes in our life. We've all done things right in our life at some point.
Mm.
When you came into the industry, you obviously had a mindset that was different probably than it is now. But what is one thing you've learned that, during your career that you could wish you'd go back and tell your younger self?
Wish that I could go back and tell my younger self, "Oh, we do not have enough time for that." There's technical aspects and there's business aspects, and then
From a
there's
business aspect, I guess, from a
yeah,
personal development aspect. Let me put it that way.
Mm.
personal development
Yeah.
aspect. There's been ceilings I've hit, and I've had mentorship, and I broke through those ceilings,
Mhm.
and paying it back. I help people. I talk about this often, and but there's a stride at which you get after that ceiling that you think you know everything, and you stop seeking out that information. And I had done that at one point in my career, and when I started in 2019, Think-PLC, I said, I could go to training and get the best at this certain technology or whatever. It's going to help us grow this new company. And I said, time out. I need to learn to be a better manager and a better business owner. And I need a format, because where I come from, getting mentorship or even having someone evaluate us owners, you didn't do that. We knew what we were doing. You didn't tell us what to do.
A point of
And
pride.
so I sought that out, and yeah, it was ego, right? And
Mhm.
the first thing anybody will tell you is you got to park that ego, and so having some accountability. How you gonna run with no accountability? So, and I even show people here, I have accountability to a coach, a mentor that I
Yeah.
meet with. I do one-on-ones, and if I tell him that I'm going to do something, or if we work through an issue, and he follows up that following month that I did it. And I might be scrutinized more than I even do one-on-ones for our own employees. But so that was a big one. I wish I learned that earlier. On the business side, I'm like, first things first, I don't care if you're one employee, payroll, outsource it. Do not do payroll in-house. Stuff like that I
That's
try to educate people with. And then on the technical side, I've learned I get my butt handed to me every week. Once I think I'm getting really good, I get humbled. I think back to some dumb stuff I've done. First time I unplugged and plugged a AC IO card in a Slick 500 chassis,
Oh,
blew the whole chassis out.
yeah.
you
Oh,
know, I learned. I
yeah.
learned how to spend the
Power
money.
count. Yeah.
But we call those. We joke here. We call them CLEs here at our facility. Somebody will make a dumb mistake. We call them career limiting events, and we'll say, "Hey, you just had a CLE," as a joke. But anyway, yeah,
Hopefully that
you
wasn't a
learn to process it.
PLC three, the size of a PLC three pulling that card out, or hopefully it was smaller than that because that would have been a big arc going across.
Yeah, the slick was, like 6 inches tall or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
you can't hot swap them. I learned that
It's
my vocabulary it grew that day. It was hot swappable,
Well,
did not
yeah.
exist.
when you
Place.
guys, and I'm going to take a chance to see if this is something you guys have had in your life. There's a smell of electronics when it's overheating. You know that smell.
Mhm.
And if you've been in a room, it will immediately stop you and say something's wrong. I get that every time my wife
Yes.
does her hair and she has this iron thing and she turns it on and all of a sudden I'm like,
Oh,
Oh,
something's up. Wait, whoa. Because I'm used to being in
yeah.
it,
control rooms when it gets
It's very
the
similar.
circuit boards heat up. You know that smell?
it's a similar smell. It is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a similar smell.
Because I've been in
That smell is familiar. It smells the same from every type of short circuit to an overload to a power supply that's burnt out. You pull it up there, and yeah, that was connected wrong.
So
You
I would
know,
say you guys on that side of the camera, that smells like money to you.
I
yeah.
don't look at
Well,
it like that
it's funny
though.
because we don't get very many power supplies back at Mirror Electronic. Bobby, tell you the truth, our power supplies are rock solid. We very rarely get one back. And I remember getting one a couple of years ago, and it was a single phase power supply. Okay, and they said it didn't work from start. Okay, so it didn't work. I smell it and I go, that doesn't smell like a brand new power supply that didn't work from scratch, because they don't smell when
No.
they don't work from
Right.
scratch. Right?
Good point.
And it turns out that, yeah, they tried to connect three phases to it.
Hmm.
There's
So,
another manufacturer that has a 120, 240 power supply, and there's a switch
yeah,
on the side of it. And if you don't change that switch, it burns them up every time.
Yeah.
it's just a
Uh,
single phase, not three phase.
A few
Yeah.
weeks ago, I helped at a water plant put a new VFD in, and we got to the root of the issue, and we put the new VFD in, and this was a really nice, really good quality VFD.
Mhm.
We put it in, and it's running. It tuned, and it's running the motor, and they want to do the second one next to it. So my head's in the cabinet over here, and I'm like, man, that thing smells funny. It's that smell
Mm.
you keep talking about, and you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
something's wrong. And I'm just like, and the plastic on the front of this brand new VFD is turning shiny. I'm like, God, what is going
Uh-oh.
on? But it's running, current looks good. And then it's getting awful. So I pick my head up and I look at it. By that time, smoke rolls out of it. I kill the disconnect. It's toast. Oil from the capacitors run out into the bottom. This
Oh,
drive ran the motor to that point where smoke was coming out of it.
wow.
Lesson learned, if you have a DVDT filter on the
Yeah.
output of a VFD and the capacitors are bad, it will damage a new VFD. And I
Oh.
argued that the VFD should have protected itself, and we won't get into the
Yeah.
technical aspects of it. But I learned my lesson. If you replace the drive and it has a DVDT filter, replace the filter as well.
It was actually a Rockwell, one of the earlier Rockwell Kinetics drives that had self-sensing to know what three-phase was coming in, and the self-sensing made a decision too quickly. So it was ramping up to 480, but for some reason the software said, "Oh, I'm running at 240." And so it immediately said, "I'm running at 240." Then the voltage went up. So the customer actually hadn't installed it yet, but he says, "Listen to this." And he gets it plugged up kind of at the bench, and all of a sudden you hear tick, 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 because it was expanding inside, like it was going to blow up, and it glowed from inside because it was about to let the smoke out. And it simply was a software problem. It didn't self-sense properly what voltage was coming in, and it clamped off too early, like it did it in milliseconds. A little too smart for its own good. But that smelled a little fishy as well.
Yeah, yeah, every
All
time.
right. So, yeah, ask you a question we ask every guest every week, Bobby. What's one tool or piece of software or a resource of some sort that you can't live without? It could be a piece of software, it could be a tool. What would it be?
Probably AI at this point. Yeah, Chat
I agree.
GPT.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, for multiple reasons, and it's a topic in my leadership group. This morning to my entire company, I presented a AI chatbot that we have adopted, that we have white labeled for us, that we're now doing to we pump all of your documentation for your machine in, and you get a chatbot, scan a barcode, and you can say, why is my fryer heater not working? Come back. It could be working for many reasons. Check circuit breaker, da da da, and it will zoom into the schematic that it referenced if you so want it.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
we're white labeling that, selling it as a product. So I gotta say, AI tools as exist now, and I'm just really interested. People are scared of AI. You just have to know how to use it. It's not perfect. It's not going to take everyone's jobs. It's not going to be like Terminator 2, and you have to check it every time for sure. With that being said, I think back about in the 1980s when CAM software came around for the
Yeah.
CNC industry,
Mhm.
and it would start writing toolpathing, G code. It had to be the same thing. It had to be like, whoa, mind blown. Like,
Mhm.
what? I don't have to write G code anymore. It's not much different at that time. Accent. I am glad it came later in life that I had to dig a little deeper for proper grammar and writing skills and things, because I would be
Yeah.
awful for the rest of my life if it came early. So we're gonna have to really work on that with our young people.
Mhm.
But I'm excited for it. If you're not using it to improve, and they say what you can't delegate, you automate is the thing
Right.
you hear in leadership books, and it's really helped automate things. We're using it for our quoting tools, like quoting control panel wiring. So given I can turn out quotes really quick about getting information off schematics, and then it's just going to grow, 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 grow. So we'll see. I've used it a little bit with writing some code. I don't
Mm.
think it does a great job with that, even
Mm.
with the SEL logic and stuff, but it actually gives you a good insight for a different way to do things.
Mhm.
But it's actually really good to check. It's like another compiler. I don't think it's
Yeah.
a good replacement for us PLC programmers yet, which is probably a good thing. That's how we make our money. But with that being said, like it's getting better and better.
It's good for validating, especially if you've
Mm.
got a set code has a structure, so it's easy for it to validate against that structure.
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm.
The way I look at AI is don't ask it to make rational decisions based on dynamic information. So if it's a static piece of information you want an answer for, and it's a fact for that answer, it's very good.
Mhm.
But I use it as a assistant. So I
Mhm.
ask it for help, but you have to really define the kind of help you want to
Mhm.
get from it. Okay, like
Sure.
an intern, I guess is the
Mhm.
best way of describing it. So,
Yeah.
for example, if I said to AI, "It's my wife's birthday next week. Go out and buy her a birthday present."
Yeah.
It could go back out and buy what something completely random. Okay.
Yeah.
But if I start giving it more information, well, she likes horses, we've got 2 golden retrievers. She likes to walk. She likes going to places and doing things. It would actually go out and actually find something a little bit more suitable for her because I've fed it more information. So
But it's
same thing.
you got to adopt it. Cybersecurity now, we're using it for a more of an active front end to lock people out before a cyber event occurs internally to our business. I use an AI tool called Thingbox that learns my usage of Microsoft Outlook, and it cleans up. It gives you a report at the end of the day, every the week, how many hours it saved you of like deleting out emails you didn't need to get. There's some CRM tools we're using where I can actually look you up if you're my contact, and it'll go tell me like when your birthday is, what you like. It'll go check your socials and stuff. You can get really like, we don't dive that deep from a sales perspective, but you could get, you could call somebody up and go, "Hey, Bobby, how's them kids doing? That one's young, right?" You could be accurate, instead of guessing.
Yeah.
Pretty scary.
Very.
I mean, there's some things that, like you said, it's an experiment, and you got to find what works for you.
Exactly.
Wow. That's so
Okay.
insightful.
Great.
AI. Well, I wasn't expecting that. And again, being more mechanical, I was expecting some kind of cool tool that you use or something. AI, very classy.
Well,
It is a cool tool. It is a cool tool. We didn't have it. You think about it, 3 years ago, before ChatGPT came out. That was only 2 years ago, or not even that, a year and a half ago. It's things have changed so rapidly because of AI, faster than anything in the history of time. Because we've had, many revolutions: the steam revolution, we've had the electric revolution, we've had the computer or digital revolution, the robot revolution, and now, the internet revolution. Now we've got the AI revolution.
To kind of add what you're saying is, it is a new shiny toy. And I just set through and I'm going to get this wrong, so please fact check me on this and get real information. I'm just going to hyperbole here. There's something like 30,000 new AI companies started within last year.
Wow.
And some crazy amount, like 60, 70% is going to go out of business within a year or something to that level. And I don't have that data in front of me. I could research it real quick. But so be mindful that everybody's trying to use it to generate new entrepreneurial opportunities, and kind of be mindful of what that is. And so for you investors out there, be careful of that.
And remember pets.com? Pets.com spent $26 million on marketing, received $15 million in total sales, folded. Fast forward, now we have Chewy, we have all that stuff that we're buying online for pets. So it wasn't that they were wrong, it was just that they were early. And I think there's a latency period with all new technologies, and that's true. Steam engine, you mentioned steam engine. It took 20 years before people realized what it could do, and really it changed the way that we operated, and an electric motor came along and it changed the way factories were built, but it still took a period of time where people had to start fresh, like throw away the old paradigm. So I think we're going to see that here with AI. It's going to be messy for a while. Go ahead, Colin.
Yeah, just to finish on that AI part, there are a lot of AI applications out there that are basically wrappers of the large language models that are underneath. So they're basically ChatGPT in disguise.
Yeah, you can make your own GPT pretty exactly to your point. There's plenty of opportunity to do something with it, and you should. I mean, get creative. There's some actual tools that you don't have to be like a Java programmer anymore. You can create your own GPT and solve a problem you have in your business or your personal life or whatever, And but if you can make money out of it, that's even better. I'm gonna make one. What T-shirt will Craig wear on this next trip?
There you go. He had his waffle. He had
his
waffle shirt on earlier. Have you still got that on?
No. What have I got on today?
Infamous.
Oh yes.
Yes. It is the Waffle House. Look at that.
Smothered and covered.
No, we do have one more question for you. And before we do that, though, I want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you and get in touch with Think-PLC when they need someone with your phenomenal expertise to solve their problems. What's the best way for them to get you?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Think-PLC.com. You can contact us directly through the website. It is monitored. Call my cell phone. I still answer 24/7. You can support at think-plc.com. Yeah, LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, let's
You got
go.
a, you got a great website, by the way, Bobby. Your website's really good. Yeah, a lot of information on there. You're even doing PLC courses as well, which is something I
Mhm.
didn't know you did. So
Yeah,
if
yep,
anyone's wanting to learn PLC programming, then get in touch with Bobby as well.
yes.
I,
Thank you.
I hate to interrupt you. But here's
No,
here's
you're
the thing. You
fine.
back in 2021, maybe you were showing me your
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and you said, "Look at this, Craig," and you had something like 40,000 impressions, and you were like, "This thing's looking pretty
Mhm.
good. This LinkedIn thing is pretty good." I'm sure you've come much further since then. But anyway, finish your thought. Did you want to say something else? I interrupted you once again.
No, we are searching for only statements, as we call them. You can't be everything to everybody.
Right.
We all hire the top talent. We all use the same adjectives to describe how good we are. Honestly, we're all hiring the same pool thing. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
what we're trying to do is get good at certain things. We have some only statements in our organization. We
Mhm.
like doing that, saying like PLC being one of the only, or the only now, I think, factory automation certified solutions partner in machine tools, CNC, in the United
Wow.
States, things like that is a big deal.
Yeah.
So we're looking for those only statements that really stand us out. Because if we just say we're the most innovative, then
Mm.
you're full of crap. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's innovative. You get the point. So that's really big in that. Going back to your story, in 2019, a person said, yes, they mentioned LinkedIn. I'm like, LinkedIn? Gosh, I haven't been on there in years.
Mhm.
I said, it's nothing but recruiters, and all they want to do
Mhm.
is like solicit my employees. And I'm like, they do the same thing to me. I'm like, stop reaching out to my people.
Mhm.
And so I get on there, and by that time, the social wall had started. And,
Mm.
and Katie bar the door, give people a platform. I don't care what you call it. MySpace relaunched with a
Exactly.
wall, like it would it'd be the biggest thing tomorrow. So anyway, I'm like, okay. And I got thinking about it, and I said, I'm in an industry, systems integrators, they're very 1990s. Like they run like systems integrators run businesses like it's in the 1990s, close to chest, kind of backwards. I was like, how do you be different? And I was like, if I put what we're doing on there legally, if we can put things on there, if we can talk about it, show it, I said,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, I, to be a little vain about it, I was like, it's going to make a couple people's blood boil because it's really cool. Probably piss them off. And that's the vain side of me. But then I was like, well, wait a minute, this is content people want to see. And it took off. And to Craig's point, probably by 2020, 2021, we're getting a lot of engagement. And I'm absolutely nobody, but I'll do a BrewLogix event in another state. Somebody will come and they'll be like, man, I've been following you on. You're like, it's like meeting somebody famous. I'm like, dude, what? Like, it's gotten to be that popular, in
Um,
our industry, which is
Yeah.
really cool to see our industry become popular in its own world.
But great talking to you about PLCs and AI. Totally agree with you on both of those. The AI really is a game changer when you know how to use it, um, and not necessarily to actually assist you doing things as opposed to cheating. And the
Yeah,
thing is that a lot of people expect to put a single prompt in and get the answer, and
yeah,
it's a process of iteration, walking through and working with it as a tool, right?
yeah.
As
It's
opposed
so
to
impressive. I had a customer with some old PLC code in statement list reach out, said, you're the S5 expert. You've been recommended by 5 people. We need your help. And I'm like, okay, I can jump on it. Give me a couple of weeks. Well, we don't have a couple of weeks. We took this job, a contractor laid down on us, yada, yada, yada. Can you have it done tomorrow? And I'm just dumb enough to say, I'll try. And so I was kind of just messing around, and I screenshot with Snippet Tool the code. I
yeah,
put it in ChatGPT 4.0 and
right,
said, explain what this is doing to me. And it explained with a screenshot perfectly, line by line. I checked it, what it was doing. And we had a program that had no documentation, no comments. So I went through there really quickly and just pasted what it told me in the comment area of the line of PLC code. each network or each rung,
Yeah.
and I just recreated it, and I did it on the things that wouldn't convert. So I, I had it done the next day, and they're like, you are this guy that we heard about. Like, this is amazing. I'm like,
You didn't
and
see it.
yeah,
Now they know.
it
Now
was
they're
getting.
don't let them
I
watch
have
this
seen.
podcast.
Yeah, they need to watch the podcast. Hopefully they don't. No, I'm just kidding. I have since showed hundreds of people. I'm like, wow, watch this, and I use this. Can you believe this? We do a lot of retrofit business where it's usually in German or it's just an upload, so all the symbol names and comments are gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Imagine if you could say, hey, in 2 hours, I can just go through here, and I can get everything we need to do, clean it up. So we're working with basically a commented program.
exactly. And it's just like being, let's say, in Mexico, you can only find a Spanish manual.
Yeah, it'll. That's
Spanish
right.
instruction
But
sheet. Put it in, take a photograph of it, put it
yeah,
into ChatGPT, and you've got the full translation. It's just
yeah,
instant. It's really helpful. Well, it looks like we've lost Craig because I'm just getting messages from him saying that he's locked out. So I'm going to wrap
right.
up the show without him and
Okay.
ask you if you've got a person that you admire, someone you've worked with, a mentor or ex-colleague, or even a current colleague that you think would be a great guest to get on the show and have a conversation with.
There are so many. I mean, there is so many people I would suggest. Preston Hadley is always a good guy to talk to from Envision Automation. I mean, obviously, you guys, Tim Wilburn is a great
Yeah.
conversationalist. You should have him on your list. Matthew Simmons is a local guy here, really big in our industry, very big on LinkedIn. There's so many powerful women in our industry now. All the ladies from the Mavens group would be fantastic. You know, offline, I'll give you a couple names. Else, it'd be great to see you guys with people with boots on the ground, folks like Preston that dig every day. The guys that like go and get dirty, the ones that actually use product would be fantastic. I have a couple in mind that
Yeah.
will hate me for suggesting it because they'll probably be embarrassed to do that. But you guys are so easy to talk to, it'd be great for them. So I'm going to send you a list, but that list could be about 50 people easy.
That's okay. That you're being very diplomatic there because it's really hard to find one person. You're not offending anybody. So I like that answer very much. You handled that very well.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm just being honest. There's some good people to chat up. People I like to listen to. If Elon Musk would take my call anymore, I would get him on here. So, but I better not say him because he's not answering anymore. He's too
Okay.
big, too popular. So,
Right. Okay, Bobby. Well, you know what? We're going to call that a wrap. Really appreciate you coming on the Machine Builder Talk podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I look forward to actually meeting you in person and having more conversations about PLCs and AI. I really do.
likewise, we'll see you
Yeah,
soon.
absolutely. So we'll bump into each other on the road sooner or later. Are you happen to be at ProMat by any chance?
Not ProMat, I'll be at Automate for sure. I hope to see you at Automate, and
Yeah.
then we'll probably be at Modex. My team is going to be at most of them, including ProMat. We have a ton of customers and manufacturers that we partner with. Actually has booths. We've helped those guys with booth setups or the technology in the booths. So you'll see us out there, but for sure Automate very soon. Realize Live coming up as well. So see you there.
Yeah, I'll definitely come and find you. Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Bobby. Have a
Thank you.
great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
See you soon. Thanks.
Yeah.
Find us at machinebuildertalk.com and wherever you listen to interesting podcasts. We encourage you to subscribe and to reach out with your comments and questions. Until next time, make it great.